Habit 6, synergize. Alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. Have you ever seen a flock of geese heading south for the winter, flying along in a V formation? Scientists have learned some amazing things about why they fly that way. By flying in formation, the whole flock can fly 71% farther than if each bird flew alone. When a goose flaps its wings, it creates an updraft for the goose that follows. As the lead goose gets tired, he will rotate to the back of the V and allow another goose to take the lead position. The geese in the back honk to encourage those in front. Whenever a goose falls out of formation, it immediately feels the resistance of trying to fly alone and quickly gets back into formation. Finally, when one of the geese gets sick or is wounded and falls out of formation, two geese will follow it down to help and protect it. They will stay with the injured goose until it is better or dies, and then will join a new formation and create their own to catch up with the group. Smart birds, these geese. By sharing in each other's draft, taking turns in the lead position, honking encouragement to each other, staying in formation, and watching out for the wounded, they accomplish so much more than if each bird flew solo. It makes me wonder if they took a class in Habit 6, synergize. So what does synergize mean? Basically, synergy is achieved when two or more people work together to create a better solution than either could alone. It's not your way or my way, but a better way, a higher way. Synergy is the reward, the delicious fruit you'll taste as you get better at living the other habits, especially at thinking win-win and seeking first to understand. Learning to synergize is learning to form V formations with others instead of trying to fly through life solo. You'll be amazed at how much faster and farther you'll go. To better understand what synergy is, let's see what synergy is not. Synergy is celebrating differences. Synergy is not tolerating differences. Synergy is teamwork. Synergy is not working independently. Synergy is open-mindedness. Synergy is not thinking you're always right. Synergy is finding new and better ways. Synergy is not compromise. Synergy is everywhere. Synergy is everywhere in nature. The great sequoia trees, which grow to heights of 300 feet or more, grow in clumps and share a vast array of intermingled roots. Without one another, they would blow over in a storm. Many plants and animals live together in symbiotic relationships. If you've ever seen a picture of a small bird feeding off the back of a rhinoceros, you've seen synergy. Each benefits. The bird gets fed and the rhino gets cleaned. Synergy isn't anything new. If you've ever been on a team of any kind, you've felt it. If you've ever worked on a group project that really came together, or been on a really fun group date, you've felt it. A good song is a great example of synergy. It's not just the beats, or the vocals, or the lyrics. It's all of them together that make up the sound. Each musician and producer brings his or her strength to the table to create something better than each could have alone. No part is more important than another, just different. Celebrating differences. Synergy doesn't just happen. It's a process. You have to get there. And the foundation of getting there is this: learn to celebrate differences. I'll never forget encountering in high school a kid from Tonga named Fine, pronounced Fini Unga. At first, I was totally intimidated by him. I mean, the guy was built like a tank, strong as a bull, and there were rumors going around that he was a street fighter. We looked, dressed, talked, thought, and ate differently. You should have seen this guy eat. The only thing we had in common was football. So how in the world did we become best friends? Maybe it was because we were so different. I never quite knew what Feeney was thinking or what he would do next, and vice versa. That was seriously refreshing. I especially enjoyed being his friend when a fight broke out. He had strengths I didn't have, and I had strengths he didn't have. Together, we made a great team. Boy, am I glad that the world isn't full of a bunch of clones who act and think exactly like me. Thank goodness for diversity. The word diversity usually calls to mind racial and gender differences, but there's so much more to it. As you've probably already noticed, human beings have a wide variety of physical features, hair textures, nose sizes, clothing styles. There are also endless differences in language, wealth, family backgrounds, religious beliefs, lifestyle, education, interests, skills, age, and on and on. As Dr. Seuss said in One Fish, Two Fish, Red Fish, Blue Fish, we see them come, we see them go. Some are fast and some are slow. Some are high and some are low. Not one of them is like another. Don't ask us why. Go ask your mother. The world is a great melting pot of cultures, races, religions, and ideas. Since this diversity around you is always expanding, you've got an important decision to make regarding how you're going to handle it. There are three possible approaches you can take. Level 1, you can shun diversity. Level 2, you can tolerate diversity. And level 3, you can celebrate diversity. The shunner's profile. Shunners are afraid, sometimes even scared to death, of differences. It disturbs them that someone may have a different skin color, worship a different god, or wear a different brand of jeans than they do, because they're convinced that their way of life is the best, right, or the only way. They enjoy ridiculing those who are different, all the while believing that they are saving the world from some terrible pestilence. They won't hesitate to get physical about it if they have to, and will often join gangs, cliques, or anti-groups because, as we've mentioned, there's strength in numbers. I'm in the mood for a good fight, but I'm personally opposed to senseless violence. Punt. That's for not being a cat. The tolerator's profile. The tolerators believe that everyone has the right to be different. They don't shun diversity, but they don't embrace it either. Their motto is, you keep to yourself and I'll keep to myself. You do your thing and let me do mine. You don't bother me and I won't bother you. Although they come close, they never get to synergy because they see differences as hurdles, not as potential strengths to build upon. They put up with your differences, but they never try to understand or learn from them. They don't know what they're missing. The celebrator's profile. Celebrators value differences. They see them as an advantage, not a weakness. They've learned that two people who think differently can achieve more than two people who think alike. They realize that celebrating differences doesn't mean that you necessarily agree with those differences, such as being a Democrat or Republican, only that you value them. In their eyes, diversity equals creative sparks, equals opportunity. So where do you fall on the spectrum? Take a hard look at yourself. If someone's clothes are different, do you value their unique clothing style, or do you think they're out of touch? Think about a group that has contrary religious beliefs to yours. Do you respect their beliefs, or do you write them off as a bunch of weirdos? If someone lives on a different side of town than you, do you feel they could teach you a thing or two? Or do you label them because of where they live? The truth is, celebrating diversity is a struggle for most of us, depending on the issue. For example, you may appreciate racial and cultural diversity and in the same breath look down on someone because of the clothes they wear. We are all a minority of one. It's much easier to appreciate differences when we realize that in one way or another, we are all a minority of one. And we should remember that diversity isn't just an external thing, it's also internal. Everyone has their own unique way of thinking, even about the same topic. Think about how different you are from your friends or family members. Do you all react to life problems in the same way? Hardly. Think about it. Some people, for example, are more easygoing and some are more tightly strung. How else do we differ on the inside? Well, we learn differently. As you've probably noticed, your friends or your sister's brains don't work the same way as yours does. Dr. Thomas Armstrong has identified 7 kinds of smarts and says that kids may learn best through their most dominant intelligence. Linguistic, they learn through reading, writing, and telling stories. Logical, mathematical, they learn through logic, patterns, categories, and relationships. Bodily, kinesthetic, they learn through bodily sensation and touching. Spatial, they learn through images and pictures. Musical, they learn through sounds and rhythm. Interpersonal, they learn through interaction and communication with others. And intrapersonal, they learn through their own feelings. One type isn't better than another, only different. You may be logical mathematical dominant, and your sister may be interpersonal dominant. Depending on your approach to diversity, you might say she's weird because she's so talkative. Or you could take advantage of those differences and get her to help you in your speech class. We see differently. Everyone sees the world differently and has a different paradigm about themselves, about others, and life in general. To understand what I mean, let's try an experiment. Look at the picture below for a few seconds. Now look at the picture on the bottom of the page 194 and describe what you see. You might say that the picture on page 194 is a squiggly drawing of a small mouse with a long tail. But what if I told you you were wrong? What if I told you that I don't see a mouse at all, but that I see a squiggly drawing of a man with glasses? Would you value my opinion, or would you think I'm a dork because I don't see the way you do? To understand my point of view, turn to page 201 and check out the pictures in the middle of that page for a second. Then look at page 194 again. Now can you see what I see? It goes to show that all the events of your past have formed a lens or a paradigm through which you see the world. And since no one's past is exactly like anyone else's, no two people see alike. Some see mice and some see men, and both are right. Once you catch on that everyone views the world differently and that everyone can be right, it will increase your understanding and respect for differing viewpoints. You might want to try this same experiment with a friend. We have different styles, traits, and characteristics. The following exercise is not meant to be an in-depth diagnosis, but a fun look at some of your general characteristics and personality traits. This exercise was developed by the Legislator School in North Carolina and was adapted from It's All in Your Mind by Kathleen Butler. Read across each row and place a 4 in the blank that best describes you. Now place a 3 in the blank for the second word that best describes you. Do the same for the final words using a 2 and a 1, and do this for each row. Now add up your totals. Don't include the example, of course, for each column and place a total in the blanks below. The grapes' natural abilities include they're reflective, sensitive, flexible, they're being creative, they have a preference for working in groups. Grapes learn best when they can work with others and share with others. They balance their work and the play, can communicate, are non-competitive, and grapes may have trouble giving exact answers, focusing on one thing at a time, and organizing. To expand their style, grapes need to pay more attention to details, not rush into things, be less emotional when making some decisions. Oranges. Natural abilities include experimenting, being independent, being curious, creating different approaches, creating change. Oranges learn best when they can use trial and error, produce real products, can compete, are self-directed. Oranges may have trouble meeting time limits, following a lecture, having few options or choices. To expand their style, oranges need to delegate responsibility, be more accepting of others' ideas, learn to prioritize. Bananas have natural abilities including planning, fact-finding, organizing, and following directions. Bananas learn best when they have an orderly environment, have specific outcomes, can trust others to do their part, and have predictable situations. Bananas may have trouble understanding feelings, dealing with opposition, answering a what-if question. To expand their style, bananas need to express their feelings more, get explanations of others' views, and be less rigid. Melons, their natural abilities include debating points of view, finding solutions, analyzing ideas, determining value or importance. Melons learn best when they have access to resources, can work independently, are respected for intellectual ability, and follow traditional methods. Melons may have trouble working in groups, being criticized, convincing others diplomatically. To expand their style, melons need to accept imperfection, consider all alternatives, and consider others' feelings.